Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening. We are studying the laws of Rabbenu HaRambam's Mishneh Torah, laws of Megillah. Megillah and Chanukah, meaning Purim and Chanukah. We're not going to do the Chanukah part tonight, but we will do the Megillah part tonight. Now, we've done this before together. It's not the first time we've learned it together. Mori Harav, not Harav Peretz, Rabbi Yosef Temner, Alav Shalom, when he would read Mishnah, Pirkei Avot, it says, Shanu Chachamim B'Shon HaMishnah. The Chachamim, they taught, Shanu, they reviewed in the language of the Mishnah. So that's why they became Chachamim, because Shanu. If they are Shanu, they are Chachamim. When you review your learning, you become a Chacham. When you don't remember what you learn, then how could you be a Chacham if everything you learn you forget? How do you remember things? Some people, review. Some people think they have a bad memory. It's not true. Some people may have a better memory than others. But reviewing, everybody can remember things they review. For example, almost everybody you know, they remember their phone number by heart. How do they know their phone number by heart? Because they've said it so many times. Most people, they know where they live, the address they live, even the zip code one, because they say it so many times. When you learn Torah the same way, then when you review, even if your memory is not so great, you're going to know the Torah. On Purim, there are a number of mitzvot. But if you look with me on page 303 in your Rambam, or the laws of Megillah, chapter 1. So if you're on Sefaria, you want to go to sefaria.org. You want to click on Halakha. From Halakha, you want to click on Mishneh Torah. Mishneh Torah, you want to go to the book of Zimanim. And then you want to hit chapter 1. Now, for those of you who are my shiur on Sunday, we already reviewed the laws of Purim. What I'm hoping to do today is to review them properly from inside of the Rambam and not just to tell them to you by heart. Like I told you then, it's important to learn things from inside of the sources. Says Rabbenu Rambam, Kriyat Megillah bizmana, reading the Megillah at the right time, mitzvat aseh midivrei sofrim. It's a mitzvat aseh from the writings of our Chachamim. Sofrim, in the introduction, at the end of the Rambam counting the mitzvot, he writes the following. He says, Sha'nevi'im, the prophets, in bet din, together with the bedin hagadol, tiknu, they established v'tzivu likra Megillah be'onata. They established the mitzvah of reading the Megillah at the right time. Why do the prophets need a bedin? A prophet is greater than a bedin, no? However, the prophet cannot make new mitzvot. The bedin can. And so the prophet needs the bedin in order to establish a new mitzvah. Famously, mitzvot that only prophets establish. So something that is, for example, a minhag of the Nevi'im. What do you know about minhag Nevi'im? We don't. What do you know about minhag Nevi'im? You do them, but... Okay, let me ask you a better way. Tell me something you know that you do that is a minhag of the Nevi'im, a custom of the prophets. My father mentioned one. The banging of the arava in the ground. Chavit. We hit. Vela barich, and we do not bless. Why we do not bless? You cannot say a blessing on something that is minhag nevi. Yeah? It's a custom from who though? It's a custom from we don't say blessing. That's why we say vela barich, because we do not say a blessing. Very good. Maybe if I could find you.
Maybe we also learn Kehillat from
Let's see, huh? Okay, like this. I'm looking for something. Okay, never mind. Looking at Chanukah here. Almost positive, right? I'll tell you a second because you have a different book than I have. Look at a few more pages from where we are right now, in the third chapter. So in your book, it's going to be on page 306. Look at Halacha Zayin. Okay? maybe Vav. ולא הלל חנוכה בלבד הוא שמדברי סופרים. Not only the הלל and חנוכה is מדברי סופרים, אלא קריאת ההלל לעולם מדברי סופרים, בכל הימים שגומרים בהם את ההלל. הלל is always a rabbinic mitzvah. On all the days that you are gomer et halel. What does it mean, gomer et halel? Finish. When do you finish the halel? What does it mean, finishing the halel? When you don't say the half halel, you say the whole halel. Became actually the Gemara alav et halel. That's right. And what days are those? 18 days. 8 days of Sukkot, 8 days of Chanukah, the first day of Pesach, and the 1 day of Atzeret. But Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim, and Behem Halel. They don't have Halel. Why? They are days of Teshuvah. And we don't say Halel. Lo yemei simcha yitera, not days of excessive happiness. V'lo tiknu Halel befurim, and they do not make a mitzvah of Halel and Purim, shekriyat ha-Megillah hi ha-Halel. Because the reading of the Megillah is the Halel that we say on Purim.
That's interesting. How does that work?
There are different opinions among the Chachamim. One of them is the story of Purim happened in Chutz Aretz, happened outside of Eretz Israel, and so its importance is less than a holiday such as Chanukah, for example. Now, that's right, because it happened in Eretz Israel. We have here in the middle of Zayin, אבל בראשי חודשים, on the Rosh Chodesh, קריאת ההלל מנהג. The custom of reading the Halel is a minhag, ve'ena mitzvah, and it's not a mitzvah. And therefore, minhag ze b'tzibur. This custom applies when you're praying with the community. לפיכך קוראים בדילוג, you read half Halel, ve'en mevarchim alav, and you do not recite a blessing. She'en mevarchim al haminhag, because we do not say brachot on a minhag. Right. Well, I know how it's because of that it's this.
But what then is the Ashkenazic rationale for saying a bracha?
Maran and Shulchan Aruch mentions a number of opinions regarding the blessing of the Halel, the half Halel. And even though he mentions the minhag in Eretz Israel and all the areas that follow the halachot of the Rambam is to recite a beracha, Maran mentions that the Ashkenazim and the Sephardim, some of them that from outside of Eretz Israel, like in North Africa very famously, they all recited a blessing on half Hallel. What is the rationale? My war is not that people should not say a blessing on Rosh Chodesh, just that they should be aware that it's a matter of much dispute. And right, they're not worried about bracha lematana. Now, I know what I'm saying will upset the Moroccans, will upset the Ashkenazim, will upset a lot of people. I'm not here to upset anybody. All I can tell you is that the halacha, at least as the Rambam understands it consistently, is that we don't recite a blessing on half Hallel, period. Rosh Chodesh is not an exception. Again, this has to do with the fact that a minhag is different than a halacha. Now that you know this, let's go back to our halachot. Chapter 1. In the introduction to them, at the end of the Minyan Mitzvot, the Rambam says also that one of the reasons we read the Megillah כדי להזכיר שבחיו של הקדוש ברוך הוא ותשועות שעשה לנו, to remember the miracles that HaKadosh Baruch Hu did for us. והיה קרוב לשבענו, he was close to our prayers. כדי לברכו, to bless him, ולהללו, to praise him, וכדי להודיע לדורות הבאים שאמת מה שהבטיחנו בתורה, to show them that it's true, that which it is written in the Torah, ומי גוי גדול, אשר לא אלוהים קרובים אליו. Which other nation has HaKadosh Baruch Hu so close to him? So now look at halakha number 1. קריאת המגילה בזמנה, reading the Megillah at the right time, מצוות עשה מדברי סופרים, is a מצוות עשה from the writings of the rabbis. והדברים ידועים, and it is known שהיא תקנת נביאים, that it's a instruction of the prophets. והכל חייבים בקריאתה, and everyone is obligated to hear the reading of the Megillah. אנשים, men, ונשים, and women, וגרים, converts. I mean, one could say, listen, my family wasn't there in the story of Purim, what do you want from my life? No, also, ועבדים משוחררים, and freed slaves. We don't have today slaves, so I'm not dealing with this halakha. What do you know so far? Men, women, children. Everyone is obligated to hear the Megillah. וכן מבטלים תלמוד תורה למקרא מגילה. We even stop learning Torah to hear the Megillah. קל וחומר לשאר המצוות של התורה. How much more so for the other mitzvot of the Torah? כולן נדחין מפני מקרא מגילה. All of them are pushed off so you could hear the Megillah being read. ואין לך דבר שנדחה מקרא מגילה מפניו, חוץ ממת שאינו קוברין, שהפוגע בו קוברו תחילה ואחר כך קורא. The only mitzvah that pushes off the reading of the Megillah is if, God forbid, you found out there's a dead body on the side of the road who nobody's there to bury him. It's called a met mitzvah. You have to first bury the person, and then you go hear the Megillah. Halakha number 2. אחד הקורא ואחד השומע מן הקורא, whether a person reads the Megillah or they hear the Megillah being read, יצא ידי חובתו, you fulfill the mitzvah. So we say the blessing, אשר קידשנו במצוות וציוונו על מקרא Megillah, on the reading of the Megillah. But I'm not reading, I'm just listening. The famous halakha is that if you hear someone do the mitzvah and they're doing it for you, you have it, that shomea ke'oneh, then you're hearing, and it's like you're reading also. So when I read the Megillah for you, and you have in mind that I'm reading the Megillah for you, then you fulfill the same mitzvah that I fulfill. V'hu shishma mimishu chayav b'kriyata. And that's only true if you hear the Megillah from somebody who is obligated to read the Megillah. לפיכך, therefore, אם היה הקורא קטן או שותה, השומע ממנו לא יצא. If you hear the Megillah, most commonly, I made a mistake. Earlier I misspoke. I said children. I would not mean. If you hear the Megillah being read from a child, then they cannot fulfill the mitzvah of Megillah for you. Because Mikra Megillah is an obligation to hear it from somebody who is obligated to read it. Let me ask you a question. So who can read the Megillah for you? A man, a woman, a girl, yeah, can read for you the Megillah. A woman can read the Megillah.
Yeah, so it's
No, there's no takana here. Meaning by the Torah reading, we have a halakha. Halakha is hakol olim leminyan shiva. All people can go to the Torah for 7 aliyot. Even man, woman, children, everybody. Chachamim made a decree that we don't give an aliyah to women, out of respect to the community. And a different day, you and I can jump down that rabbit hole, what those halachot mean. But here, there is no such takana. So let's say a man's not feeling well. His wife knows how to read Megillah. She wants to read the Megillah for him. Can he do that? Of course. Of course. She can read it for her family, of course. Listen, in the community already, you're going to deal with sensitivities of the community. But mitzad hadin, from the court of the law, what's the problem? Minyan is only related to the bracha we say afterwards, possibly. But in terms of the reading of the Megillah, she's obligated to the mitzvah, just like I'm obligated to the mitzvah. Good, so she's the one who's going to read the Megillah. It's the same thing with Chanukah, no? Can a wife light Chanukah candles for her husband? But when a woman lights Chanukah candles at the home, Sephardic house at least, we only light one Chanukah for the whole house. So then, can the wife do it? Of course. Can a woman say Kiddush for her family? Is she obligated in Kiddush? Woman's not obligated in Kiddush? Of course she's obligated in Kiddush. Yeah, just like he's obligated in Kiddush, she's obligated in Kiddush. So can she say Kiddush for the family? Yes. Okay, the minhag is the father of the family says Kiddush. I'm not here to now change all that. I'm saying in terms of halachot, what happens if, I don't know, a husband goes away for Shabbat to some convention somewhere and leaves his wife and children at home. Who should say Havdalah? His wife, of course. Of course. Today you have all kinds of crazy, people are afraid a woman shouldn't do Havdalah. Maybe she's going to have all kinds of superstitions about that. Maybe the kid should say Havdalah. If the husband's not there, then his wife is just as good as the husband. They're both Jewish. They're both obligated on the mitzvah. It's a very simple halakha here. Now I'm going to turn it over the other direction though. Now that you know this, I'll never understand for the life of me that there are women who don't take hearing the Megillah seriously. They come at the night, they're not in the day. They come in the day, but not in the night. But she's obligated to hear the Megillah. In the nighttime and in the daytime. Why does she think that she is exempt from this mitzvah? I don't know. But it's the same woman who I know all came to the Beit HaKnesset last Shabbat to hear Parashat Zachor. Are women obligated to hear Parashat Zachor? Not at all. Not at all. So why would she go all the way to the Beit HaKnesset to hear Zachor on Shabbat morning? Listen, our women and our Kehillat, they're all in the Beit HaKnesset. Okay, you and I, we all go to the Beit HaKnesset because our Kehillat, our approach is that men and women both are Jewish. That's how we believe, and therefore both men and women also have to pray. Yeah, that's how we live here. Other Kehillat, though, that's not the case. Think about it. You live in a house, you have 17 children, and it's hard to get out of the house in the morning. I don't know, but he goes to pray Shachid at 6 o'clock in the morning. You don't have to make a special minyan to go here, Torah reading now, Parashat Zachor. Nothing special, Parashat Zachor. But Megillat Esther is an obligation. How many women come to the Beit HaKnesset? Our women always come to the Beit HaKnesset. Always. But hearing shofar, a woman is obligated to hear the shofar? No. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, Rachel, don't take this halakha l'maaseh. In our Kehillat, the woman comes to everything. That's how it works in our Kehillat. Yeah? But how could it be that the woman who comes to the Beit HaKnesset to hear the shofar, they don't come to hear the Megillah? The Megillah, they're obligated in it. How could it be they come to Beit HaKnesset to hear the 10 Commandments and Shavuot? Even you don't have to hear the 10 Commandments and Shavuot. But the Megillah, what about the Megillah? Every year I worry about the people who don't take the Megillah seriously. The nighttime Megillah, the daytime Megillah. 2 Megillah readings, separate mitzvot. Mitzvah likrot et kula. The mitzvah is to read the whole Megillah. U'mitzvah likrota balayla uvayom. You have to read it in the nighttime and the daytime. V'chol halayla kasher l'kriyat halayla. V'chol hayom kasher l'kriyat hayom. You could read it the whole night. It doesn't matter if it's at now what the sun's going to set. I don't remember exactly what time. Let's say 7:30. You can read it till the sun rises the next morning. And in the morning, you can read it from when the sun rises till the sun sets. The whole day, you can read the Megillah. And there are brachot we say before and afterwards. And halakha daled, you see halakha number 4? Daled? Page 303? Okay. There are different days that we read the Megillah. We know famously, this year aside, that all of us who live outside of Eretz Israel for sure, but even in Eretz Israel, that cities that are not walled cities, we read it on the 14th of Adar, which is going to be this year, Thursday night, Friday. And in the cities that have walls from Yehoshua ben Nun are going to be Yerushalayim, where else? Tveria, possibly Akko, Yafo, maybe? I don't know what they do in Yafo. There's Shiloh, maybe a few places where they read the Megillah in Shushan itself, in Hamadan. They read the Megillah on the 15th of Adar. This year, everything is confused. No, they're going to read it with us on Friday. Yeah, on Friday.
What about you?
Yeah, but
Oh yeah, both.
we have a halacha Yud Gimel that's relevant this year. Yud Gimel. See Yud Gimel? It's on page 304. Halacha 13. En korin et Megillah b'Shabbat. We don't read the Megillah on Shabbat. Gezerah, it's a rabbinic decree. Shema yitilena biyado v'yelech etzel mishu baki likrota. Because maybe you'll take the Megillah in your hand and you'll take it to a person who knows how to read it for you. V'yavirena arba amot b'rshut harabim, and you will carry it 4 amot in the public thoroughfare, which is a biblical prohibition. So in order to fulfill a rabbinic mitzvah, you'll violate a biblical prohibition. Shakol chayevim b'kriyata, because everybody's obligated to read it. V'en hakol bekiin b'kriyata, but unfortunately, not everybody knows how to read it. Lefichach, therefore, im chal zaman kriyata b'Shabbat, if the time to read the Megillah comes out on Shabbat, like this year in Yerushalayim, they're supposed to read it on Friday night and Saturday. Makdimim v'korin ota kodem HaShabbat. We read it the day before Shabbat, Friday. And what do you do on Shabbat? V'shoalin v'dorshin b'ilchot Purim b'ota Shabbat. The Chachamim give shurim, discussions on the laws of Purim that Shabbat, kedei laskir shu Purim, to remind everybody that it's Purim, even though we're not reading the Megillah that day. Rambam never heard in his life that somebody wore a costume on Purim. In his life, he never heard such a thing.
If you do Purim on Friday, but you should do it on Saturday, when do you do the Sudah?
That's called a Purim Meshulash. They spread Purim over the whole weekend. If you like, I could send you an article on how one would do Purim this year in Yerushalayim. Look in chapter 2. HaKoreh et Megillah lemafreya. If you read the Megillah lemafreya, what does it mean lemafreya? No. That would be Shalom Bizmana. We talked about that. Yes, there are halachot there. Lemafreya can also mean you read it backwards. Yeah. You take the Megillah, you read it from left to right. I don't know why somebody does that. Lo yatsa, you do not fulfill the mitzvah. I'll give you an example of reading the Megillah backwards. Let's say you read pasuk number 1, and then you by accident skip pasuk number 2. So you read pasuk number 3, like, oh my gosh, I forgot pasuk number 2. So then you go back to pasuk number 2, and then you continue pasuk number 4. So you read the one, you can't do it like that. It has to be in order. You have to read from the beginning till the end. You want a little Hasidic story? The Baal Shem Tov Alav Shalom, he said, reading the Megillah lemafreya, it means a person who thinks the story of Purim couldn't happen again. There's only something in the past. They read it backwards. You have to believe when you read the story of Purim that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to do miracles for us now like he did miracles for us then. Yeah, it's an important. I'm not telling you that's what the halakha means. I'm telling you that's what the Baal Shem Tov learned from this halakha. So what do you have to do? If you skip pasuk number 2, you have to go back to 2 and read in order. From 2, then 3, then 4. Another example where you might read the Megillah backwards. Matzat Tzibur, halakha number 2. Shekaru chetzia. You come to a Bet HaKnesset, they're reading already half the Megillah, they're done. Lo yomar, don't say, Ekra chetzi acharon im hatzibur, ve'echzor ve'ekra chetzi rishon. Let me finish the Megillah with them. They're up to chapter 5. Good, I'll read 5 till the end with them. Then I'll go back and do 1, 2, 3, 4 on my own. You can't do that because that's reading the Megillah out of order. Could be my volume is. How about? I bought a new microphone, but it could be. How about now? I got a new microphone, but I figured I wouldn't use it. I think it's time to use it. We are. You can hear me now. Where did you lose me?
Oh, just about 2 sentences.
Good. When a person comes to Beit HaKnesset and they see the Megillah, they're already halfway through. You don't listen to the second half and then repeat the first half. This is you have to start from the beginning and read the Megillah with him. This is an important halakha number Gimel. Hakoreh et Megillah al peh. Somebody who reads the Megillah by heart. Lo yatsa yedei chavoto. You do not fulfill the obligation. For example, I can read the Megillah by heart. Megillah is an easy book to remember. Especially you read it so many years, you remember it by heart. You know Tefillah by heart? Tell me a chapter of Tefillah you know by heart. Tell me. Shir lamano, you say things long enough, you remember them by heart. But you cannot fulfill the mitzvah of mikra Megillah, reading the Megillah, by saying the Megillah. You must be reading the Megillah.
Somebody blind can't read the Megillah.
Very good. That's the haloez sheshama et Megillah haketuvah b'lshon hakodesh uvichtav hakodesh. Remember that I already gave a shiur on Sunday morning about lashon hakodesh, ktav hakodesh. Yeah, somebody who hears the Megillah being written, they don't speak Hebrew, but they hear the Megillah being read in Hebrew from Hebrew letters. Af al pi she'eno yodea ma hen omrin. Even though he has no clue what they're saying, yatsa yedei chuvato. You fulfill the mitzvah. That's the special thing about Hebrew. Hebrew, no matter what, you could fulfill your mitzvah with it. וכן אם הייתה כתובה יוונית ושמעה, יצא. אף על פי שאינו מכיר, ואפילו היה שומע עברי. There's an interesting halakha about Greek, a Megillah written in Greek. And by the way, now you're going to deal with interesting things. How do you write a Megillah in Greek? Does it mean Hebrew letters, spelling Greek words? Is it Greek letters? Is it on clef? The same thing with the next halakha. הייתה כתובה תרגום, או בלשון אחרת מלשונות הגויים. If it's written in Aramaic or in any of the other non-Jewish languages, Megillah in English, לא יצא ידי חובתו בקריאתה, אלא המכיר אותה לשון בלבד. Only the person who knows that language can understand that language. Greek has a separate, HaShamayim and the Talmud deal with Greek separately. In that time, Rambam explains Pirush HaMishnayot, already the translation of the Mikra into Greek was nafotz, and that became a language that everybody knew. If you look also Echot Tefillin of the Rambam, he mentions about Tefillin that we now today write in Ashurit, and today nobody writes in Yevani. Today we don't see such a thing anymore. But there was a generation like that. In any case, if you have a Megillah in another language, only the person who knows that language can fulfill the mitzvah with that Megillah. So it's not relevant. I've never in my life seen a Megillah written on clef with dio in English. We write it already in Hebrew. Hakoreh halacha hey. Hakoreh et Megillah belo chavana. If you read the Megillah with no kavanah, lo yatsa, you don't fulfill the mitzvah. Ketzad? Haya kodva, or dorsha, or magiha. Let's say you were writing the Megillah, or you were learning the Megillah, or you were... Remember I said, Haggad, remember how I explained to you they check the Sefer Torah? How do they check? How do they read letter by letter?
I once checked some Torah.
Yes, Abba.
You say that Bereshit bara, you say ba, ra, sha, ya, ta, ba.
Remember? So one person has the Sefer Torah, and one person is looking in the book. And you go, like my father did as a kid. Yeah? They tell you read, and you go, ba, ra, sha, ya, ta. That's Bereshit. Ba, ra, that's bara. Now, if you read the Megillah like that, you're not... Now, even if you read it, Bereshit, bara, Elohim, et, you read it like that, you still don't fulfill the mitzvah. Vayhi b'imei Achashverosh. You don't fulfill the mitzvah because you did not intend to read the Megillah. You didn't have a kavanah for that kid. This one is important for some people in my shiur. The last sentence in Hey. Kara v'hu mitnamnem. If a person reads the Megillah, but he is mitnamnem, what is a mitnamnem? What is mitnamnem? The Rambam Yechot Tefillin, he says, Yechot Kriyat Shema, he says, it's a person who's not awake, but they're not sleeping. Yeah? Some people are experts in this one. Very good. Gemara says, Nim v'nonim, tir v'lo tir. You call his name and he answers you. But then you try to talk to him, not such a clear conversation. That person is a mitnam nim. That person, they fulfill the mitzvah. But if they're actually sleeping, it doesn't help. So how do you make sure they're just mitnam nim? You just like that, and then they very the whole like that. Oh Hashem. So let's look at halacha zayin. Hakoret Megillah, someone who reads the Megillah, v'ta'a b'kriyata, and he made a mistake in the reading. V'kara kriya meshubeshet, and he reads incorrectly, like the words, mispronounces the words. They're not perfect. Yatsa, you fulfill the mitzvah. Lefi she'en medakdekin b'kriyata, because we are not medakdekin in the reading. Now, you have to hear every word, but you don't have to hear every word correctly. Now, what does it mean? Already, the rabbis who came after the Rambam tried to explain whether this means like mistakes that they make a difference or mistakes that don't make a difference. Yeah? I mean, if you're going to read the words so wrong that you're already changing the meaning of the Megillah, then maybe that's not what the Rambam means. But maybe you're reading something instead of, let me think of a word you might... Is it Hagafen or Hagefen? That kind of difference does make a difference. Just keep reading. Yeah, and as the Megillah, you don't have that word. I'm just telling you an example of that's a mistake, but it doesn't matter for the sake of fulfilling the mitzvah. Kara omed. If you read the Megillah standing, or yoshev, or sitting, yatzah, you fulfill the mitzvah. You don't have to be standing to read the Megillah. You can stand or sit. Va'afilu b'tzibur. Even in public. But lo yikra b'tzibur yoshev lecha techila mipnei kavod hatzibur. You don't read, ideally, sitting down because of kavod hatzibur, out of respect for the community. When you read for the community, you respect them by standing up. I'm going to tell you a few areas where you notice this. And the Beit HaKnesset, I don't like to pick on people, so now I'm going to pick on them because I'm not picking on anybody in particular. There are some people who they sit down because they're not feeling well, because they're tired, maybe they're a little bit older. It's hard to stand up for a lot of the tefillah. But when you are reading a part of the tefillah for the community and the rest of the community is standing up, you better stand up. You don't read that part of the tefillah sitting down. You're allowed to sit. Nobody told you have to stand. But if you want to read, you have to stand. Now this is something that you find in certain situations, tefillah. Maybe there's a minhag. I'm not sure the Rambam would care for it, but a minhag that in the middle of Vayivarech David, right? That everybody sits down in the middle, right? Usually I saw among the Sephardim that the Chazan stays standing. Why does he stay standing? Because he's reading for the community. He doesn't want to sit. Everybody else can sit, but he remains standing. A certain kvod hatzibur. No, if everyone is sitting, then that's fine. But if it's a part where everybody is standing and you've chosen to sit, then that's important. Now here by the Megillah, it doesn't matter. Everybody else is sitting, but you are the reader, you stand. Now you'll notice, Chacham Ovadia Yosef, for example, he read the Megillah always sitting down, especially in his older years. He couldn't stand for that long. And the kavod of the community was that he would read for them the Megillah. Just listen, if you insist that I stand, so find somebody else to read. If you want me to read, I have to sit. I can't stand. So that was really the community forewent their honor. And my father also, he reads the Megillah sitting down and then later reading. It's okay. You're alive. Everybody agrees it's okay. That's something that's allowed to be done.
I once went to a Megillah reading where the rabbi said, I have to stand, so everybody has to stand. And, which is a wrong, but very few people stood anyway.
I love rabbis like that. That's if I'm suffering, you got to suffer with me.
Exactly the situation.
Halakha number tet. En kotvim et ha-Megillah ela badio ala gvil or ala klaf. We only write a Megillah on gvil or on klaf with kasher ink. Now, right now, I cannot help you. Gvil, klaf, duchsustus. Yes. There are 3 layers of klaf. And then I have pictures here in the back if you want to see. If you look, Gvil, you see these pictures here? Okay, so this is leather, right? This thing is called Gvil. This layer is called duchsustus. And this one is called klaf. By the way, major argument between the Rambam and the Shulchan Aruch. I'm not sticking my head in here, but let's just say that for many, many, many opinions, Maran and all the tefillin that we wear, according to the Rambam, are not kasher. It's one of the things I regret not fighting with our parents about. Because at the end of the day, this is a complicated story. But if you've ever seen a Sefer Torah, like a Yemenite Sefer Torah that's written on Gvil, it's number 1, very beautiful. Number 2, it's very, very, very durable. And number 3, it's very, very heavy. It's very heavy. I have a mezuzah at home that was written on, it was actually not kasher, it was written on Gvil. I usually show it to people. But our Gvil is the whole piece of leather. Like you have the kippah that people wear made out of leather? Like that. That's going to be the thickness of the paper they write it on. Sorry for the trash bag. I came in the rain. I figured we did together Mishlach Manot. We did that on Sunday. I want to show you here. A Megillah, right? This Megillah was written by me, by a friend of mine. You can see. This parchment that we use is what we call, I'm not telling you, we call it klaf. This one. The same one the Sefer Torah is written on. You can imagine if this was thick, then that would be also kasher for the writing of the Megillah. And those Megillot, aside from very expensive, everything with them is very heavy. I'm not an expert, but min hastam, I'm going to keep the Megillah open because I'm going to show it to you. The Yemenites, when they do Hagbaha, how do they lift the Sefer Torah? Just the parchment in the middle. Why? Because probably the picking up that whole thing is not so possible when you're supposed to show people the writing. That's all you have to do when you do Hagbaha. So, it needs sirtut. What is sirtut? Says the Rambam. Tzricha sirtut. What is sirtut? Before you write it, you see these lines that are on the klaf? See this? They make the line into the parchment so that you can write on it. So that's what you do for the Megillah. Halacha Yud Aleph, HaMegillah tzricha tefira. The Megillah needs to be sewn together. Ad shu kol oroteha Megillah achat. So all the pieces, you have a paper like this, and a paper like this made out of animal. You have to sew them all together so they become one long Megillah. And you only use enan nitferet ele bagidin. You have to use the sinews of the animal to do that. So, I'll show you. Megillah, where does page 1 end? It's long. Okay, here. See that? You see here how it's sewn? Look at my right hand. See the sewing? So that is done with an animal. It's not string. It's from the inside of the animal. That's the way that we sew the Megillah together, the same way you have in the Sefer Torah. You don't have an animal that long that you could write a whole Sefer Torah on. It's the you know what I'm talking about? I don't know English. So, okay. Now there's an instruction from the Talmud. Look on Halacha Yud Bet. וצריך הקורא לקרות 10 בני המן ו10 רשימה אחת כדי להודיע לעם שכולם ניצלו ונהרגו כאחד. You have to read, if you can, of course, you have to read Kehillat, all the names of the 10 sons of Haman, you have to read them together to show that they all died at the same time.
How did they know?
Haman had a lot of sons. We hung the 10 sons of Haman, but there were more. Talmud says Haman had like 70 something children. It was very busy. Don't hold me to the number, but you can look in Masechet Megillah. The Chachamim have a conversation there. Uminhag kol Yisrael. It's a minhag of all the Jewish people. Shakore et Megillah, whoever reads the Megillah, kore, he reads it, ufoshet ki igeret. He reads it and he just lets it flow like a letter. I'll show you what I mean. And when he's done, chozer v'korcha kula umvarech. At the end of the reading, you roll it all up and then you say the bracha. Now, the Ashkenazim have a different custom here. For some years in the community, in the early years, you might remember, I did it because we had a lot of visitors in those days. Today, Baruch Hashem, Hashem saved us from the visitors. But when we read the Megillah, we read it like this. Look, the Megillah is called a letter. So when you read it, you don't roll it up while you read it. You let it fall, like on the table, like that, like the way it folds on itself. The Ashkenazi, unlike Sefer Torah, where you're rolling it and reading it. And then at the end, what do? You roll the whole Megillah up. We're quiet. You always remember, we tell everyone to be quiet. And then we say the bracha, Rav et Rabbenu, Adan Dinenu, we say the bracha afterwards. Ashkenazim have developed a minhag, probably from an improper reading here of the Rambam, but to fold the whole Megillah before you read the Megillah, and then to read it like that. In the years that we did that because of the Kanaim Pogiimbo, it's the most complicated reading because the whole time you're trying to figure out which part of the Megillah you're reading. That's obviously not what the Rambam meant when he wrote this, but I'm explaining that you might see people fold the Megillah before they read. That's the reason for why we do it that way. Has anyone here ever held a Megillah before? Your hands are clean? I see Cheetos on the table. No, not real Cheetos, never, don't worry, relax. How about this? I want to show you, just for the people who've never seen them before, I want to show you Megillah. Don't touch. You see? This is handwriting. Yeah. The same as the Torah. In Ktav Ashurit. Oh, there are different letters that are bigger and smaller. That's a great question. Maybe I'll talk about it on Purim. See, this is a Megillah. This, my friend who wrote this Megillah, his name is Rabbi Michael Darzi. In my opinion, he has one of the most beautiful handwritings. Naftali, huh? One of the most beautiful handwritings of anybody that I ever saw. This Megillah, it looks like he typed it, right? You know who else has the most beautiful handwriting I ever saw in my life? Rabbi Atiyah, here in San Diego. For those of you who live on the East Coast or anywhere else, you can still buy mezuzot and tefillin and Sefer Torah and everything from Rabbi Atiyah in San Diego. He ships everywhere. Rabbi Atiyah, he wrote all the mezuzot here. I didn't buy them from him. He wrote them for us. The ones in my house also. Every mezuzah I have in my house, he has mezuzot he sells. Like he buys them from people who write them, and he's the middleman. He sells them to you. Those are the ones that they're not cheap, but they're easier. They're a little more affordable. I told Hamati I only want the ones he writes. He writes special, and I have those. All of the mezuzot in my house and here are from Rabbi Atiyah himself, his own handwriting. He writes like an angel, something very special. This Megillah though has two things not written in the Rambam. My friend Rabbi Michael Darzi, he lives in Israel. That's what I was going to show. I have two things here in this Megillah the Rambam doesn't mention, but the Shulchan Aruch mentions. Okay, Shulchan Aruch mentions, maybe the Rambam mentions this first one, but I didn't go through, that we should leave at the beginning of the Megillah an amount that is enough to cover the whole Megillah when you roll it blank, like this. So when you roll it, all of what's covering the writing should be blank. And the second is an amud. Now this one, really, is an Ashkenazi thing that became a Sephardic thing that Ashkenazim don't even do. So Maran records a Shulchan Aruch that a Megillah needs an amud. It needs a post. The source of Maran is not, it's clear that it's from Ashkenaz like that. And for many years I didn't have one in the Megillah, but last year or 2 years ago I needed to replace the case of my Megillah. And I was by Haravatia and I said, you know what? Maybe it's time to follow Shulchan Aruch and put a post on my Megillah. So I put a post on my Megillah. The only thing, you have to bless the Sephardim. Why do I bless the Sephardim? Because the Sephardim, they designed this case. You see this case here? And you see this post? The post goes like this. So that means the handle for where you're supposed to hold the Megillah is on the top. Really, it's supposed to go like this. And this way, I can read the Megillah the right way. So all of them, they do it like this, and then they store the Megillah upside down, and they lay it like this so the Megillah is not upside down the whole year. This is bad engineering at its best. So I told Rabbi Tia, I don't care where the handle is, just let me have the amud in the right place. I don't want my Megillah upside down the whole year. There's somebody who reads the Megillah backwards. So this is Hilchot Megillah. No, that's already a different thing. The case is somebody else. So Rabbi Atia, maybe last year, he sewed it for me onto the, like in a box. Like that. I brought it to him, and Rabbi Atia sold me the case, and he sewed it for me.
Oh, so separate.
Yeah, separate. Yeah. You have a few minutes we can finish the Halachot Purim. You see, the beautiful part of the Rambam is very quickly you can learn all of Halakha, because you just go through Mishnah Torah and you already know everything you need to know for the holiday. That's important. People always ask me, which book of Halakha should I read? Read the Rambam. Just don't waste your time. In Halakha Yud Gimel, so I'm in chapter 2 of the Rambam, Halakha 13. Shnei hayimim ha'elu, these 2 days, shehem 14 v'chamisha'asar, the 14th and the 15th. Asurim b'sefed v'ta'anit, they're forbidden with hesped, with eulogizing, and you're not allowed to fast. L'chol adam b'chol makom, any person in any place. Whether you're celebrating the 14th or the 15th. Meaning, if someone dies, we bury them on Purim? Yes, but what do we not do? We don't say anything about them. We just bury them. That's it. We don't do the eulogies. That's not today. If somebody has a bad dream, they want to fast. No, not on Purim. Do it a different day. Purim, people have fasted on a bad dream called Tanit Chalom. This is the kind of thing that we don't do in Purim. We don't do sad things in Purim. Halakha Yud Mitzvat Yom 14 לבני כפרים ועיירות, ויום 15 לבני כרכים. The mitzvah for us on Purim, liyotam yemei mishteh v'simcha, to be days of food, drinking, and happiness. Umishloach manot l'reim, and sending gifts of food to our friends. Umatanot levyonim, and money to the poor. I'm going to repeat some things that I said on Sunday, but let's read the halachot first. Umutar ba'asiyat melacha, you're allowed to do melacha on Purim. You're allowed to work. V'af al pichen en ra'ui la'asot bo melacha. It's not a good thing to do work. Amur chachamim, because our rabbi said, Kol ha'oseh melacha b'yom Purim, anybody who works on the day of Purim, eno roeh siman beracha, does not see from the money that they make on that day, does not see any blessing. For example, maybe they made $100, and then tomorrow they went and parked in the wrong place, and they give him a parking ticket. Panita got a parking ticket recently. She went to UCSD, and when she went to pay for the parking app, the app took her to the wrong address. So she went inside to talk to the secretary. She came back out. There was a ticket on her car. How much was the ticket for? $80-something. I said, it's the most expensive parking. You should have just paid the wrong one for $5, and then you would say, but what happens? That $80 you thought you made on Purim, you lost it the day after. You're not going to get a bracha from. If you have to do it, I tell people, you have to work because you have to keep your job, you're a salaried employee, whatever you are, fine. But you work for yourself. You have the ability to take off work. In America, Jewish people go to work on Purim. It's something unusual. It's very unusual. What can they do? Well, you take off on Sukkot also, no? You take off on Pesach also. Anyways, you took off 100 days of work this year. So what is it going to hurt you one more day? Just because Americans got used to working on Purim does not make it okay to work on Purim. Is it forbidden? It's not forbidden. Is it a bracha? You don't get a bracha. It's easy for me to talk. I don't have a job. I have to worry about on Purim. I understand. Yeah, what? I'm saying that maybe my job is yes to work on Purim. I don't know. That's everyone what they understand. So I do. I also work on Shabbat. I work on all the days you're not supposed to work. That's right, Elchanan. And Halacha Tedvav. Thanks for having my back, Elchanan.
How about medical work?
Zev, I was once with a doctor, and with my father. Now it's like a few years. So that was the time that my father had big yeshua. So I thank HaKadosh Baruch Hu for that. When I was with my father many years ago in the hospital, and there was a doctor that came into the emergency room. He was a Jewish doctor, and he really was very helpful. But he was, some Jews, they're built with guilt. They come inside, they see a kippah, they start confessing like I'm a Catholic priest. I'm married to this, my children are that, I don't go to Beit HaKnesset, I eat shrimp. A lot of people, they try to tell you, I don't care. I didn't ask you any questions, but they think you're a Catholic priest. So this guy comes over, Rabbi, I don't work on Shabbat. I work on Shabbat, but I'm a good Jew, but I still work on Shabbat. He was telling me a whole speech, and I told him, hey, relax, doctor. You and I, we both work in the same job, so we're allowed to work on Shabbat. It's okay. Relax. Don't get so upset. Yeah.
Guilt.
So, the Purim meal, Halacha Tedvav. You see Tedvav? On page 305, the top right. Ketzad chovat seuda zo. How do you fulfill the obligation of this meal? Shiochal basar. You should eat meat. Obviously, if you like meat, okay? If you like it. Why I say drink meat? It's a typo, but my nephew, he's a mashgiach in a senior home in Brooklyn. And we were talking about checking for bugs. He's a Chassidish, checking for bugs, not checking for bugs. And his rabbi is very strict. But by the senior home, he doesn't have to check. I said, why? He said, everything we feed them goes in a blender. I said, what do you mean? He said, let's say he orders steak for dinner. We bring him a ribeye steak in a blender with a straw. So maybe some people do drink meat, but I meant to eat meat. Eat meat. Vitaken seudan na'a kefi asher timtza yado. And you should make a beautiful meal the way that you are able to afford and to make a meal. Everybody's different. Rav Yosef Kapach writes in his book Halichot Teman. He says that in Yemen, the Purim meal was nicer or as nice the Shlomo HaMelech's meal. I said it's the only meal in Yemen where they served also fish and meat and chicken and multiple types of the same, meaning a few types of meat and a few types of chicken. He said Purim was a very special holiday when it came to food in Yemen. He said something interesting. My wife and I got married. One of the things she noticed was the Purim holiday is lacking a lot of the stuff that exists in Ashkenaz. One of those things that is very noticeable are songs of Purim. If you took away all the silly kid songs like or all those silly songs, what piyutim are you left with for Purim? And for years, I don't know. There's one piyut or two for Purim. Rav Kapach says that in Yemen, all the songs that were sung on Purim were the same songs we sing on Shabbat and Yom Tov, except for one song. There was one song with a few lines they sang on Purim. Yeah, but there's no special music that is for Purim. Why? I don't know. If I was a sociologist, I would understand why Sephardim develop certain minhagim more than other. I don't know. I don't know to tell you why, but that's the reality. V'shotei yain, and he should drink wine. Ad sheishtaker, until he becomes drunk. V'yiradem b'shichrut, and he should fall asleep from his drunkenness. I was not going to teach about this tonight. Talmud says, Chayav inish levsume b'puraya delo yada ben Baruch Mordechai Aru Haman. Person must drink on Purim until they do not know the difference between the blessed Mordechai and the cursed Haman. Here's what I'm going to tell you. I have 10 or 12 or 15 different ways to read this passage of the Talmud. I'll tell you first what Mori Harav said. Harav said that even if it's true that you have to get drunk, we're going to ignore this mitzvah. Even if it's true, we're going to ignore this mitzvah. That's number one. It doesn't fit with everything that we know from the Torah. Number two. It's obvious that if you're going to fulfill a mitzvah and therefore do avirot, then that's not a good mitzvah for you to do. And if you ever seen a drunk person on Purim, then you will know that they do nothing good on Purim. They think they do a lot of good, a lot of crying, a lot of silliness, a lot of vomit, a lot of resha, but nothing good. And number three, נער הייתי וגם זקנתי. I'm not so old, but I'm also not so young anymore. And I've never in my life have I seen a genuine Talmid Chacham who is drunk on Purim. Never in my life. And I guarantee that you haven't either. It doesn't matter. You're going to tell me Sephardic or Ashkenazi. I'm going to tell you, you never saw Chacham Ovadia Yosef drunk on Purim. You never saw Chacham Mordechai Eliyahu drunk on Purim. You never saw, give me Ashkenazi Rabbi's name. Rabbi Moshe Feinstein drunk on Purim. The Lubavitch Rebbe, you never saw him drunk. But you pick a name, I don't know, take a name. You didn't see him throwing up on the table, dancing on his head. You didn't see such a thing. So who do you see? Ameharetz do things like that. So what does it mean a person has to drink on Purim? What does it mean shishtaker? The reading of the Rambam here is likely you drink a little more wine than you should be drinking. You get tired, you go to sleep. You take a nap. We didn't do that this year. If you drink a little bit of wine in your Suda in the morning, you get a little tired, you go to sleep, take a nap. What's the big deal? When you're sleeping, you don't remember the difference between Mordechai and Haman. Then don't worry about it.
So why did Rabbi want to let him do
I don't know to tell you the answer to that question. What does it mean? Like, any person here can make a mistake and say, I don't know the difference between Moshe Rabbenu and Nasrallah, Sinwar. You can forget such a thing. And no matter how drunk you are, you're not going to mistake them. So how could it be? Must be this not Chachamim, man. I'm not worried about it. I'm telling you the truth. Drink a little bit of wine on Purim. It's a mishteh. The miracle of Purim happened on wine, but not enough to ever chas v'shalom get drunk. It's not appropriate on Purim. And if a person has a problem with alcohol, for sure they shouldn't drink anything on Purim. And for those who drink on Purim, the mitzvah is only with wine. So the people are drinking entire bottles of whiskey every year. Kids end up in the hospital, alcohol poisoning, crazy things they do. Once I was in a place, a guy walked through a glass door, covered in glass, bleeding everywhere. Went to the emergency room. He was so drunk, he kept dancing and singing like a crazy person. What a chilul Hashem. What a chilul Hashem. So we don't. A Rabbanit is on the phone call.
How is it possible that something like that could actually be written in holy books? Because, I mean, there's no way that Hashem would ever want people to go around being drunk. You couldn't even relist to the Megillah properly. You couldn't really do anything properly.
Marlene, the premise of our Chachamim was that they gave the books of the Chachamim to intelligent people, to alphabetic people, to people who had a brain. They did not expect that Am Yisrael would be as stupid as it is right now. What I'm telling you is very severe what I'm telling you, but it's the Torah, Chacham Paul wrote in his book, Torah was not intended for dummies. And
It's based on
the Talmud. But the word v'sheishtaker, what does it mean, sheishtaker? The Talmud says levisume. The Talmud has a word. It's not the same. In Hebrew, we don't have, lid basem is not a word in Hebrew. Meaning, to use it for alcohol is not in the original Hebrew a word. Lid basem would mean like with besamim. Mevusam, that's a but. It's a this word. Okay, so that's a good word. We should have used that word. That's the word Chachamim used. Chachamim used that word. They didn't use the word lishtaker. There's the word. By the way, Talmud after this teaching gives a story
But the two rabbis.
about the two Chachamim. One of them killed the other one because he was drunk, and then he brought him back to life. When he got over his drunkenness, oh my God, I killed him. He brought him back to life. And then the next year, he said, you want to do Purim again? He said, no. Not every day HaKadosh Baruch Hu does miracles that he's going to bring me back to life. And obviously it's an Agadah. So the story is not meant to be taken literally. But it's obvious to me that when the Talmud says this, and then it says that story, that it tells you something not good came from the story. I have a shiur somewhere else that I taught all about drinking on Purim. I don't want to get stuck on it. In our Kehillat, we don't drink on Purim. If somebody gets drunk on Purim, they should go to therapy. They shouldn't come to the Beit HaKnesset. It's not appropriate to get drunk on Purim, period. And what you do with the text, I told you, it doesn't matter. I have many ways to explain. Don't worry about it. It's not important. You don't get drunk on Purim, please.
It's just a metaphor that they say that you don't know the difference between Mordechai and Haman.
I can't say metaphor because it's written in the book. I can't say metaphor. I could just say this.
No, that's mean it's not real that they drank so much.
Okay. So we have in Halakha Tedvav. Continues. וכן חייב לשלוח שתי מנות של בשר או של מיני תבשין But the Rambam, always the word shel is attached to the next word. We don't do that in Hebrew today, but that's how Rambam writes. You send 2 foods of meat, or food, or 2 מיני אוכלים לחברו, or 2 types of food to your friend. שנאמר לגצץ ומשלוח מנות איש לרעהו, gifts of food, a man to his friend. 2 מנות לאדם אחד. 2 gifts to 1 person. וכל המרבה לשלוח לרעי משובח. And anybody who can give more to their friends, wonderful. ואם אין לו, what if a person does not have enough money to give away food to their friends? מחליף עם חברו. You give your friend the meal and he'll give you his meal. And that way, both of you fulfill the mitzvah of mishloach manot. So if a person is unable to do these mitzvot, they should go find another Jewish person who's in the same financial situation as they are and exchange meals with each other. And the yeshiva, by the way, Mori Arav, that's what he told the Avrachim to do. The Kol guys, that's what they should do. They don't have enough money to be giving away. Everybody sends the other person their meal and they eat their food. That assumes 2 things. 1, that everybody knows how to cook nice food. And number 2, that assumes that everybody trusts everybody's kashrut. And notice they would never write this in a book today because maybe that guy, he buys potatoes not with the right kosher symbol. And then maybe he makes it in a pot that had onions that stayed out of the refrigerator overnight without and then God forbid, and then they're going to make, maybe there's demons inside of the mashed potatoes and you don't know what's going to happen next. And then you can't eat each other's food anymore. That's, you think I'm joking, but this is mamash the way that it works in many places. So, Halakha Tet Zayin, Rambam writes, "V'chayav lechalek la'aniyim b'yom HaPurim." B'yom HaPurim, you must give tzedakah to poor people on Purim. En pach. En pachut mishenei aniyim, not less than 2 poor people. Noten lechol echad matana echad. You give every poor person 1 thing. O ma'ot, or money, or minei tafshil, or cooked foods, or minei ochalin, or some kind of other food. Shneimar u'matanot le'evyonim, and you must give gifts to the poor. Shte matanot l'shnei aniyim, 2 gifts to 2 poor people. Then medagdekin b'mot Purim, we're not particular about money on Purim, ela kol ha'poshet yado litol notnim lo, anybody who puts out their hand, you give them money. Then mishanim me'ot Purim l'tzedakah acheret, and we don't take the money of Purim and use it for a different tzedakah. So somebody donates money to the Beit HaKnesset for poor people, for Purim. And they give me $1,000, let's pretend. And they say, I want this to go. So we give everybody, we ran out of poor people to give money to. You can't say, okay, now we're going to pay for Kiddush with this money. You can't do that. That money is only for poor people on Purim. You have to find someone else to give the money to or give more money to one of the people before. Mutav la'adam, it's better for a person to, if you give money to our Matot Evanim fund, I will give it to families who need it, and you fulfill the mitzvah of giving to 2 people. That's a good question. That's what I do. What I do for Matot Evanim is I collect money, and I know the people who need, and we give as much as we can to as many of the people as we can. מוטב לאדם להרבות במתנות אביונים מלהרבות בסעודתו ובשילוח לרעב. A person's better they should give the money to the poor than to increase their meal or to give more mishloach manot. At the end of the day, once I give my father a piece of salmon with quinoa, or my mother gets from my wife a piece of chicken with potatoes, whatever it is, we all fulfill the mitzvah, and they give me to fulfill the mitzvah. Why should you go spend more money now on mishloach manot to other people or to have a nicer meal, when you can just take all of that money that you were going to spend and give it to other people? Remember the restaurant Lior had? You once went to meet Lior in Deal. Okay. Yeah. I saw like 3 years ago they sent the mishloach manot you can buy from there. The mishloach manot platter starts at $999. Salt. It's called salt. Yeah. It's like a meat platter. I don't know. $999. That means the starting at. And when I told the Rabbenu, she laughed at me. Why? That's not so expensive. Because people, where she spends her life, they spend a lot more. For what reason? If you have that much money, then take care of the people in your Kehillat. Imagine there's a family in your Kehillat, they can't pay their mortgage this month. They're struggling. And you bring them $1,000 worth of chocolate. Can you help me? If you have $1,000, can you help me pay my mortgage? Can you help me pay my electric bill? What am I going to do with the chocolate? I'm going to give it to my landlord? I'm going to call Gas and Electric and send them a potato chip bag. What am I going to do with it? You have the opportunity to help people, so use the money. Give one Mishloach Manot, but people have a lot of pressure. If you don't give Mishloach Manot to this family, don't give Mishloach Manot to that family. I'm going to ask in my Kehillat something, in my request. I'm going to say it again on Purim. If you are able to give money to the poor, I ask, give one Mishloach Manot this Purim, one, and give the rest to the Matanot Averi. There are people who need help. And I ask the rest of the people in the Kehillat, don't be mad if you don't get Mishloach Manot from other people. If someone didn't give you Mishloach Manot this year, don't be upset. Assume they listen to me and they put the money in tzedakah. Please, assume that. That's the best case scenario. You want to give and you can do both, do both. I'm not telling you that. There's no greater mitzvah than helping the people who are widows, they're orphans, the people that don't have, to help them. Rambam writes hamelalim. That's how he punctuates us. Some would say umlalim. Hamelalim ha'elu medameh b'shechina. Somebody who makes the heart of these people that are sad happy is like the Shekhinah. Yeshayahu, the prophet, says about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, la'achayot ruach shefanim u'la'achayot lev nitkaim. That HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives life to the spirit of people who are suffering. I don't know if you've ever seen real tzedakah before. Sure, you've done it. I'm not talking putting a tzedakah in a tzedakah box. Sometimes people in the Kehillat, they ask me to give away money. People send money to give to other people. When you bring a person who doesn't know where they're going to get the meals for this month for their kids, and you come to them with $3,000, and you say the Jewish community cares about you. Our Kehillat wants that. You come with them to $500, and you say, the pressure that you feel right now in your heart, if you don't know how you're going to pay gas for your car to get to work, don't worry about it. Someone covered it. That feeling is so much happier than any silly bag of potato chips and lollipops you're going to give somebody. Think, when you can, if you can, that this is the right thing to do on the Chagim. And then you like HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The last halakha of the Rambam, I'm going to read it to you. I want you to think about it. Maybe I'm going to talk about it on Purim, because there's nothing I can explain to you about it today. Kol Sifrei HaNevi'im, all the writings of the prophets, says the Rambam. V'chol HaKetuvim, and all of the writings in the Ketuvim. Atidin libatel limot HaMashiach, will be nullified in the days of the Mashiach. Chutz Megillat Esther, except for the Megillah of Esther. Harehi kayemet kechamisha chumshei Torah. It will forever be part of the Jewish people, like the 5 books of the Torah. V'chalachot shel Torah shebal peh, like the Talmud, the laws of the oral Torah, she'enan betelin le'olam, that will never ever be uprooted. V'af al pi shekol zichron atzarot yiftal, even though all of the memory of the suffering of the Jewish people in the days of the Mashiach will disappear, shene'emar, like it says, ki nishkechu hatzarot harishonot, we forgot the early suffering. Yemei Purim lo yiftelu, the days of Purim will never, even in the Mashiach, they will never be erased. Shtemar, like it says in Megillat Esther, v'yemei haPurim ha'ele, the days of Purim, these ones, lo ya'avru mitoch haYehudim, will never leave the Jewish people, v'zichram lo yasuf mizaram, and even their generations will always celebrate the holiday of Purim. Says the Rambam, he's quoting the Talmud, that all of the books of the Nevi'im, Yeshayahu, Yirmiyah, all the books of the Ketuvim, all of them, Tehillim, all of them in the days of the Mashiach will be gone. Except 5 books of Moshe, the oral Torah that we have, and Megillat Esther. To ask yourself a question, we said on Sunday, Megillat Esther is an important book, because Rim B'Ruach HaKodesh, so important that it's like the 5 books of the Torah. What? More than Tehillim, more than, I don't know, it's more than Shir HaShirim, more than that. That is a fascinating conversation. Maybe we'll talk about it on Purim itself. Right now, you finished all of the halachot of Purim. Anything you didn't read here, it's not a thing on Purim. There's a minhag, like I mentioned to you, Zechel and Mechatzit HaShekel. Baruch, do you have any idea where those coins are? You know where you have them? You're going to bring them back for Purim? Okay, Baruch Hashem. Thank you. So, I think I gave them to Baruch a few years ago because we don't want to lose them. Yeah, so we'll bring them back on Purim, and you'll have it's minhag. It's an old Ashkenazi minhag, became a Sephardic minhag in pretty much all the communities. To also do a Zechel and Mechatzit HaShekel, you can do that online, and then you can do it here without putting money, or you can come here and do it on your own. It's a minhag. It's not a halakha, but it's a minhag. Nonetheless, I'm wishing everybody a Chag Purim Sameach when it comes. Until then, a reminder that tomorrow night we have a meeting in the Kehillat at 8 p.m. It shouldn't be very long. I just want to talk to you about everything that's going on. And then Thursday morning is a fast day, so we're fasting on Thursday. We have Purim on Thursday night, Friday morning. We have a Sudat Purim catered by Esther. Yeah, we're doing it. And Chana, we're doing a chilaquiles and some good things here in the morning. So, Chevra, if you're not in San Diego, you have time to book a flight to make it here for an incredible Purim. And if you're anyways here, you might as well stay for Shabbat. I'm wishing everybody a beautiful week, and I will see you all at the next time that we have a shiur. B'ezrat Hashem.